Texas Republicans are pushing for a referendum to decide whether the state should secede from the U.S. The demand for Texans to be allowed to vote on the issue in 2023 was a measure adopted in the Texas GOP's party platform following last week's state convention in Houston.
Under a section titled State Sovereignty, the platform states, pursuant to Article 1, Section 1 of the Texas Constitution, the federal government has impaired our right of local self-government. Therefore, federally mandated legislation that infringes upon the 10th Amendment rights of Texans should be ignored, opposed, refused, and nullified.
Secession. Unfortunately, the Constitution of the United States does not allow, I don't believe, the states to
No,
secede.
states cannot unilaterally secede from the Union. We're going to have to do a war.
And the only way I think that states can be broken up into smaller states is if they do secede, and then if there's a state of war, then they can be just carved up, right? That's how we got West Virginia.
I'm
in the Civil War. I'm pretty sure that's how we got West Virginia.
I'm fascinated by the politics.
So Democrats should want California to secede, go to war with California, and then they can break it into 3 states and get more of those Senate seats.
Look, I think there are people in California who wouldn't mind that.
Dems.
It's not clear to me that it will remain a blue state. Look, there's so many shenanigans going on in California. Sometimes I think that California is blue relative to the rest of the country. But given that they've got this Republican billionaire running for the mayor of LA, given that they had a Medicare for All bill that should have passed, a statewide Medicare for All bill that should have passed, given the overwhelming Democratic representation in their state Senate, and that still was tanked by the Democrats in the most liberal state in the union. It's not clear to me that some of these states really know what their identity is.
Affirmative action lost there and then lost again, bigly, over and over again.
Yeah, and the posture of this politically is very interesting to me, because you think of some of these states like Texas as places where people really value patriotism. Right? And this idea of America first and being really bound to the country.
But they don't want to be part of America.
Yeah, I don't know how that flies.
Yeah, there is an increasingly, maybe not increasingly popular among the right, popular among conservative weirdos I see on Twitter, the national divorce. Do you hear about this idea? You've never heard this terminology?
Twitters.
Wow, okay. You are not, this has not penetrated your awareness. Yes, the national divorce is something some people on the right, conservative, far-right talking people on social media are all about. A national divorce, which is the idea that it should be peaceful. It should just be look, we're 2 different countries. We're a country of people who like guns and low taxes and don't want COVID mandates, and a country of people who want drag queens reading to children or something. Again, this is the conservative framing of it, not mine. And we should just be 2 different countries, and that will be fine. Now, practically, it's impossible for many reasons, because you have a lot of very deep blue enclaves within redder surrounding countryside, and vice versa. So there would be no clean way to do it. Obviously, there's no constitutional mechanism to do it. I do, however, want to give more. This is the idea of our country, and I think it's a good one to give a lot of decision making at the state level. There's a little too much. We all have to live by Washington, D.C.'s rules that increases our mutual enmity and our polarization, and it makes all of our presidential contests seem extremely high stakes, because whoever wins can really force their will on the whole country. In some ways, the political climate was healthier 50 or 80 or 100 years ago, when who wins the presidency doesn't matter that much, because the range of things they have control over is not
when
that.
FDR was bulldozing through federal policy and changing the landscape of the administrative state.
I don't like all those policies.
And
growing the administrative state.
And winning election after election 4 times, including, I think he won every state except for, Vermont? Yeah. That's the time period you're talking about.
That's the time period where it switched. It is under FDR where we switch from being a very state-based process to a dramatically more powerful federal government, and you can say there were good things about it.
But it was unified and popular.
I'm saying, that, okay, but we're not unified and popular now, and we're dealing with the system he created that has some downsides.
Because we just need another FDR.
We need another.
Look, it seems to me that the value of America and some of the beauty of America is that there's all this diversity within each state. I think there's something really unpatriotic and gross about saying, I'm going to withhold, maybe Texas and California can do well on their own, but leaving states like West Virginia in the lurch. And given that so many of the poor states in the Union, Mississippi, the whole Southeast, are conservative states, it does seem to be a really anti-solidaristic, kind of middle finger to parts of the conservative coalition. I don't think America should be like so many of these Balkan states, like what's going on in Ukraine, where there's this idea that, well, we speak a different language and we have different culture values, so we should split the country in two. I mean, that's fine, self-determination, people can do what they want to do, but part of what I've always valued about being an American is the idea that we do have the ability to live together in this way, and that there are these blue enclaves, and not enclaves, even just blue people in red states and red people in blue states, and I don't feel like I never have to go to Staten Island just because I'm from New York.
Absolutely. And I like that too about our country, but one way to maintain that for the country, maintain that culture, is to have more of a live and let live attitude for people within who are dissenters within communities, or for different states.
Well,
to say, you know what, maybe we don't all have to have the same exact policy, that the tax rates can be different in different states. Maybe the abortion policies can be different in some states. Maybe it's not all government, it's not all fiat from whoever happens to occupy the White House for the next 4 years.
And the state shouldn't send six CPS on parents of trans kids, child protective services.
They shouldn't do that.
They shouldn't try to decide for teachers and communities what books they should read and all of those kinds of things as well. I think there is a lack of respect at both the federal and state level. Right. There's a lack of respect at both the federal and the state level for the idea that everyone who lives within your territory should live your life exactly as you want to live it.
People of other families, other people, other communities are doing things I don't agree with. You know what? Whatever. Do that. That's not what I choose for me or my family or my community. That's not what I would want. There has to be more of a live. I don't know. I can't even say it. So let live attitude in this country, which is more in line with what, obviously, with what our founding documents intended for us, and corresponds to not a period of time that was better in every way, but a healthier political period. We're just so angry with each other all the time. We feel so threatened by each other because there is so much forcing everybody to go one way that is really actually at odds with the American ethos.
We would have a little bit of a dispute about that. I do think that what we have seen over the last few administrations, that there's actually some pretty significant limits to federal powers, and the fact the fact that people are so disenchanted with government right now is because the government isn't doing anything. People feel like the government isn't responding to these crises that are coming down the pike, crisis after crisis after crisis. And people's disaffection has to do with feeling like the government is useless and neutered. And I think in large part it is. We talked, I don't know if I talked with you about it or talked about it on my own show, but there was a study recently about who people across the world, which countries see themselves as more or less democratic. And Chinese people see themselves as being extremely democratic because they measure democracy not so much in electoral lens, but by how much the government is able to do for them. And they see the government sending, protective gear for COVID and groceries to their house,
also locking them in their homes for weeks,
building hospitals overnight, and responding to the crisis with alacrity. And they say, I live in a country that is taking care of me. I feel like my country is responding to my needs, and that's a democracy.
Like drone message control the soul's desire for freedom.
And here in America, we scream freedom and shoot each other in elementary schools and claim that that's free when people are going hungry, aren't able to afford gas to get to work, and all of these kinds of things. And also feel very, very disconnected from the system, from the government, from the state, want to literally secede from the union because they don't see any value in what government is actually doing for them. So.
Well, tomorrow on Rising, Ghislaine Maxwell reportedly filed over 100 complaints regarding prison conditions during her 22 months in solitary confinement at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, and we'll discuss that.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
See you tomorrow.